BPLO, Business Permit and Licensing Office, City Assessor's Office, Bids and Awards Committee, and yung City Engineer's Office. Yung City Engineer's Office, nag-send sila ng letter. Gusto nila include sila sa offices with direct COVID-19 services, pero tingin ko nasa indirect sila kasi like the quarantine facilities na na-build or na-construct ay under sa City Engineer's Office. So I think they're not directly with contact to the clients with COVID-19. So sa office approval rating for the PNP, ang approval rating nila is 67%. They are the top or the highest approval rating among the offices on the group 1 with direct or with COVID-19 services. Disapproval rate nila is 7% and yung net approval rate is 60%. City Health got 64 with 10% disapproval rate and net is 54. Next, yung supposedly naka-arrange ito into highest to lowest. So it should be measured through the net approval rate. So yung third, yung City Tourism Office with 59% of approval rate, 8% disapprove, and 51% of net approval rate. Fourth is the City Disaster Risk Reduction Office. May approval rate of 58%, 11% yung disapproval, and net is 48. For the Public Information Office, 57% yung approval rate, 8 is disapproved, 49% net approval rate. City Administrator's Office, 55% approved, 10% disapproved, 45% yung net approval rate. Then yung CSWDO, 57% approval rate, disapproved 13%, and yung respondents yung net approval rate is 44% for CSWDO. Para sa City Mayor's Office naman, approval rate is 56%, medyo mataas yung disapproval rate of 13%, and 42% yung net approval rate. For the second group, yung without direct COVID-19 services, OCNR got 49% approval rate. Yung net niya is 44%. City Agriculture OCA, 46% approved, 6% disapproved, and yung net approval rate is 40%. Sumunod naman yung City Vet, 40% yung respondents na nag-approve, disapproved 2%, and then 38% net approval rate. Yung City Planning Office naman is 44% yung nag-approve, disapproved 7%, and yung net niya is 37%. For the BPLO, they got 39% approval rate, 2% disapproved, and yung net is 36%. City Assessor's Office got 42% approval rate, 7% disapproved, 35% yung net approval rate nila. Then yung BAC, yung Bids and Awards Committee, 35% approval rate, 3% disapproves, and yung net approval rate nila is 32%. Same with city engineers, yung net approval nila is 32%. Yung approval rate nila is 42% and disapprove 10%. Yung highlights nito, frontline units with services related to COVID-19, ito po yung first group, generally have high net approval rating than the other departments, with the only exception yung city, yung OCNR, which has a net approval rate of 40%, higher than the city mayor's office with 42% only. Next, the next the next the next of the findings, the Philippine National Police or the Task Force Zamboanga are the most approved units both in terms of approval and net approval ratings. Ito po yung 67% and yung 60%. Number 3, yung among the departments with COVID-19 services, City Mayor's Office is the least approved both in terms of approval rating and net approval rating. Sila rin yung may pinaka highest disapproval rate of 13%. For the departments not directly involved with clients on COVID-19, yung second group, the OCNR has the highest approval and net approval rating, with whereas the city engineer's office is the least approved both metrics with the highest approval rating in the group. Ito yung 32% and yung OCNR is has or got 44% net approval rate. So these are the results for the office approval rating. Next, I will be presenting the results for COVID-19 policies and measures. This basis rin po nito yung executive order on general community quarantine. So ito yung mga policies na capture or na survey or na include sa survey. Ito yung anti-spitting in public, 10-person limit on wakes, funerals, and interments, 30% limit on religious gathering, then yung 50% limit on special events held in hotels and other accommodation establishments, then yung curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 p.m. Another policy, yung Sunday lockdown. Then yung liquor ban, quarantine pass, both yung hard quarantine pass and yung e-quarantine pass, electronic quarantine pass. Yung no RT-PCR, no entry sa city. Then yung S-Pass for the travelers coming in Zamboanga. Then yung LTO satisfaction on COVID-19. So sa anti-spitting in public, in any areas or public areas, most of the respondents approve with 86%. So sa 10-person limit on wakes, interment, and funerals, medyo divided siya. Pero most of the respondents also approved to limit the attendees. Next, yung 30% limit on religious gathering, most of the respondents also approved with 64% rather. Then yung 50% limit on special events, marami din yung nag-approve to 72%. Then yung curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 p.m. the same, mataas din. Yung approval rate is 71%. Yung Sunday lockdown, divided siya. Pero marami pa rin yung nag-approve nag-approve to have the Sunday lockdown. Then yung liquor ban, mas mataas yung approval rate niya. Then yung quarantine pass, nasa 55%. Mataas yung approval rate niya. Negative RT-PCR, yung negative RT-PCR, no entry sa city. Nasa 55% din yung approval rate niya. Then yung S-Pass, nire-require talaga dito sa city, so marami din yung nag-approve. Then yung LGU satisfaction, maraming neutral. Then with 51%, satisfied sa services rendered ng city is 32%. Yung dissatisfied is 17%. So dito sa policies and measures, halos lahat ng respondents agreed sa or approved sa mga policies and measures. Pero dito sa right side, kung click natin yung pie, wait lang. Nag-lag yung computer ko, wait lang. Start ko lang. So yung highlight lang dito sa policies and measures, yung sa Sunday lockdown. Yung youth or yung younger population with 30 years old and below, mas marami yung nag-disapprove with 43%. Pero sa ibang policies naman, lahat naman sila nag-agree to retain the policies ng city. So, another also sa work, sa employment, significant din po dito yung study on Sunday lockdown. Marami din yung nag-disapprove with 39%. Siguro ito based to sa mga unemployed or not working. I think siguro na babagot na sila sa bahay, including yung mga young population natin. Another one yung sa no negative RT-PCR, no entry sa city. Mas maraming respondents na nag-approve. Notably yung sa Zamboanga City with 60.8%. So I think yun lang ang presentation ko. Yes.
Thank you, Sir Jason. Okay, sorry. So thank you very much, Sir Jason, for your presentation. No, ENP Jason Bustamante is our senior statistician at the Research Evaluation and Statistics Division. So yung po yung mga findings, no, as mentioned by Sir Jason, there are significant difference in terms of the age group and employment when it comes to their approval on the Sunday lockdown and the negative RT-PCR. But on other policies and protocols, uniform po na approved ang mga policies natin. Medyo ang Sunday lockdown lang and on a certain to a certain extent our negative RT-PCR are the divisive measures so far as our respondents are concerned. Take note that our respondents are only adult individuals aged 18 years old and above. There are about 918 respondents to this survey, and as mentioned by Ma'am Sharon earlier, the collection of data was through text and call. Thank you very much, Sir Jason, for your presentation. I hope may nakuha po ang ating mga partners from other LGUs, barangay LGUs, and neighboring local government units in Zampen Basulta. I will also share with you the study that we did on Sunday lockdown, because Sunday lockdown is really a contentious issue here in Zamboanga. So there were a lot of studies made to support decisions of our local IATF. So we studied Sunday lockdown, specifically its effect on the trend of cases. So you can see in the presentation, we have a map. By the way, we have a geotagging project in Zamboanga City where we collect coordinates of patients that unfortunately contracted the virus. So nakikita nyo lahat ng mga dots na yan po yung nag-positive sa Zamboanga since 2020. So ang dami po talaga. But you can see the concentration of cases are really on the densely populated areas like in the Central Business District and other growth areas in Zamboanga. So let us try to understand first what happened in this year, no, in 2021. So first, we try to see that in the first quarter of this year, Zamboanga City was under MGCQ. So let's try to understand what happened during an MGCQ. So during MGCQ, overall from February until April, pataas ang trend. But if you try to narrow down the trend during the time that the beta and alpha variant was not yet detected in Zamboanga. This time, during MGCQ, wala po tayong Sunday lockdown. So during the time na wala po tayong Sunday lockdown, the general trend, as you see on the regression line, is stable naman. In other words, at least on average, the Sunday lockdown measure did not affect the number of cases in Zamboanga City, at least on the as far as the study is concerned, or the parameters of the study is concerned. Now, when we try to look at the time period where it is suspected that the beta and the alpha variant arrived in Zamboanga City, so during this time hindi pa tayo nagbago ng quarantine status, so lifted pa rin yung Sunday lockdown, pero tumataas na ang kaso. But of course, this is because dumating na yung mga bagong variants. It's not because Sunday lockdown is really ineffective. Okay, now, after the detection of the new variants in Zamboanga City, the local IETF recommended the implementation of an MECQ, where a more stricter measure or a stricter measure was implemented. So during the time that we implemented MECQ, of course, Sunday is also under lockdown, in as much as the other days are also, in as much as the restrictions are on the other days of the week. So that general trend after the implementation of MECQ is going down, as shown by the green line, which is actually the regression line. And take note that during this time, we already implemented the Sunday lockdown. Now, after the MECQ, I think that is about a few weeks, mga 6 weeks ata yun. The local IETF recommended for a more relaxed quarantine measure, which is GCQ. Now, during the time that we implemented GCQ, the local IETF lifted the Sunday lockdown. Ito po yung green, ito po yung mga cases during that time, yung green. And then, for some reason, nire-impose ang Sunday lockdown. I think it was because of the notable number of persons in the beaches kaya and parks. So kaya nag-decide po yung local ITF na i-restore yung Sunday lockdown. So pero tingnan muna natin yung yung green lines, yung green trend because ito yung time na wala pang Sunday lockdown nung first GCQ natin for this year. Okay, what happened? Ano ba yung trend niya during this time, no? So let's see. So ang general trend during the time that we implemented GCQ, where Sunday lockdown was not observed, stable ang cases. In other words, there was no significant difference in terms of the average number of cases by the time that the Sunday lockdown was lifted. So what we can get insight about this is there's no evidence that shows that the Sunday lockdown significantly affected the trend of cases, whether it brought it down or it brought it up, wala pong ganong correlation as far as the parameters of this study is concerned. Now, sorry, this is Sunday lockdown pala, I'm sorry. This is the Sunday lockdown, the time that ni-reimpose. Yung lifted pala siya is this one. So during the time na nilift yung Sunday lockdown, the trend is slightly going down. So although slightly going down lang siya, hindi ganun ka-significant yung effect niya. So you can still surmise that the general trend is wala pong correlation, walang masyadong effect. There's no evidence to show that the Sunday lockdown or the lifting of the Sunday lockdown affected the number of cases. And then nung nire-impose siya, as pinakita ko kanina, nung nire-impose siya, wala ding effect. Hindi siya bumaba. Naging stable lang siya. Hindi siya bumaba. Yung kanina, yung na-lift siya, actually may konting pagbaba pa ng cases. Pero nung nare-impose ang Sunday lockdown, naging stable siya. So there's, as far as the parameters of the study and as far as the time frame of the study is concerned, there's no evidence to show that the Sunday lockdown had an effect on the cases. Now, tatanong nyo sa akin, ganun yung resulta nyo, bakit na-sustain nyo pa rin yung Sunday lockdown? This is because of the local ITF is taking the precautionary measure of out of abundance of caution. Ibig sabihin, mas mabuti ng safe. And yung isa ring factor that inspired the local IATF to sustain the Sunday lockdown is the acceptance of the public. As presented by Sir Jason kanina, ang level of acceptance on the Sunday lockdown is still positive, meaning to say there are still more people approving of the policy than disapproving. Although you can also say that medyo maliit na naman ang difference, it's a little bit divisive compared to the other protocols, but still generally it's accepted. Only the young age groups are showed strong dissatisfaction of the Sunday lockdown. So yun po yung mga studies na ginawa ng City Government of Zamboanga in coordination with the local IATF. Again, we decided to present this afternoon in celebration of the National Statistics Month so that our planners, especially our friends from the Philippine Institute of Environmental Planners working in the academe and local government units can also replicate and push for the adoption or usage of data-based and evidence-based policies and decision making. So we will entertain questions at the end of the forum in the interest of time. I know you have a lot of questions. Some of them you can just chat them in the chat box and we are very happy to answer your questions. We proceed with the next presentation. As promised a while ago, we said that the mayor will be presenting the actions taken by the local ITF as far as containing the COVID-19 in Zamboanga City. And the reason why we presented first the data and the evidence is because these are the basis. At least it forms part of the basis for the decision making of the local IETF here in Zamboanga City. The mayor cannot make it today, but she instructed us to to show us, to present us the um, measures and policies and the strategy of the local government of Zamboanga in containing COVID-19 through a video presentation. So we will listen to our Chief Executive, Mayor Maria Isabel Climo.
Paz de Dios y abrazo de nuestra Chief Executives, participants, muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad for choosing Zamboanga City to share our best and good practices to fight against COVID-19. Indeed, it is quite difficult, especially now as we are under the surge of the Delta variant. In the year and a half of fighting COVID-19 pandemic, our response was hinged on a whole of a nation, whole of a city, and whole of a family mindset. We realized that no matter how much we set the restrictions, people tend to be frustrated and tired at all of these restrictions. That is why we have to put the emphasis that we need to be responsible citizens by being responsible members of a family, the family that we go home to and the family that we love. It was also important for us to align our COVID-19 response with the national directives, but also for it to be grounded on the realities and needs of the local level. Currently, Zamboanga City and the wider region confronts the menace of the Delta variant, with the more infectious iteration of the SARS-CoV-2 in Zamboanga City. Cases shot up in the highest level on October 17, 2021, with 2,858 active cases, causing further stress to the city's already flustered healthcare system. Data from the City Health Office indicate that the bed occupancy in the hospitals is approaching the critical level at 84%, while the isolation facilities are at high risk with the occupancy at 81.7%. We would have wanted to put up 2,500 isolation beds, but COVID has taken its toll on Zamboanga City. Hindi pa kami nakarating sa 2,500. Almost 500 to 600 isolation beds are already full. Oxygen supply remains insufficient as patients wrestle for access. Cognizant of the dire situation, we called upon the National IATF to grant an MECQ status for Zamboanga City from October 16 to October 31, 2021, which was granted to us. The MECQ status reinforces the PDITR strategy of prevention, detection, isolation, treatment, and reintegration. Prevention through electronic quarantine pass, the local government instituted the use of the quarantine passes to limit mobility and exposure of the vulnerable population. There are two types of passes. A and B were issued to eligible residents where the quarantine pass A are only allowed to move out every Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, whereas quarantine pass B permitted only on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Sundays were dedicated only to frontliners and the worshippers. The initiative was first instituted in the early 2020s, with each family being given a quarantine pass each containing a main holder and an alternative holder. In May 2021, when the city was again placed under MECQ, the Computer Services Division developed an electronic quarantine pass, or the EQ Pass, with a QR code to accommodate requests by returning residents and the families whose quarantine passes were lost or damaged beyond repair. The application process for the e-quarantine pass is completely online, with the only requirements being a valid proof of identification such as government-issued IDs, barangay certification, or birth certificates. Compliant applications are issued EQ passes within 72 hours. Thank you to Jessie Lapinid and the team of Alan Aizon as well. The Research Statistics and Evaluation Division of the Office of the City Planning and Development Coordinator oversees the e-Quarantine Pass project with routine inspections and monitoring of establishments, checkpoints, and markets to ensure strict observance of the measure. Prevention, COVID-19 online data tracker, or the geotagging and the map of containment zones. As part of risk communication, an online data tracker was also developed in May 2020. The tracker aims to provide the public with the up-to-date and accurate information on COVID-19 infections and status of hospitals and care units. Available in the website are the executive issuances on COVID-19, statistics on vaccination, video advisories, and COVID-19 news beats and information. The local government was also one of the few local government units to collect coordinates of the patients infected with SARS-CoV-2 under the geotagging project. Around 40 barangay-based and 15 citywide geotaggers constitute the geotagging team, who regularly submit coordinates to the City Planning Office via email. The spatial data collected are processed and sent to the IT team to be made available in the online tracker where the risk map is being shown. Aside from a risk map, an interactive map of areas under the granular lockdown are also made available in the tracker, including information of the number of individuals vaccinated by the barangay. In this age of information, data can be powerful and a very effective tool to influence human behavior and minimize the risk of infection. Other prevention mechanisms include routine disinfection, mobilization of Barangay Information Operations Network, Stay Safe or QR codes, and negative RT-PCR requirement on borders, regular COVID-19 advisories, public information office info sessions with different sectors, and stringent patrols and checkpoints down to the barangay sita. Detection. The local government unit molecular laboratory locally hired contact tracers. On detection, the local government unit early on worked on the development of an LGU-managed molecular laboratory to increase our testing capability. From having to rely on testing laboratories in Manila and Davao way back through the RITM, the local government coordinated with the establishment of 5 functional testing laboratories. In the Philippine Red Cross, we also came up with a MOA, Ciudad Medical Hospital with another MOA. Then there is the West Metro Medical Center, the Zamboanga City Department of Agriculture Laboratory, and the Zamboanga City Medical Center Gene Expert Laboratory. Now, the local government is close to realizing our in-house molecular laboratory as we look into the conduct of mass testing and free testing for vulnerable sectors. I know in areas like Pagadian, we hear that there is also free testing. We learn from each other. Aside from testing, the local government unit has also seen significant feats in contact tracing. With the guidance of Mayor Benji Magalong, the contact tracing ratio has significantly improved to 1:21, with 750 locally hired contact tracers strategically stationed in different barangays of the city. On the pipeline, we are also looking at activating our eSumbong and eConsulta as part of our detection strategy. In isolation, we are putting our mega isolation facility. The local government is proud to have forged partnerships, especially in the aspect of isolation facilities. Early on, the Ateneo de Zamboanga University, the Yuntes Mission Center of the Archdiocese of Zamboanga, the Zamboanga Economic Freeport Zone, and the Department of Public Works and Highways extended a hand for the use of their respective facilities for isolation. We are currently finalizing arrangements for the use of selected Department of Education schools to increase our capacity to isolate mild COVID-19 patients. Additionally, the Pasunanca Convention Center, Mindanao Central Sanitarium are on our way of our mega isolation facility as well to provide the much needed additional bed spaces to reach our target of 3,000 beds by November 2021. On quarantine, the local government was one of the few local government units who provided a subsidized hotel accommodation for returning residents with free meals to provide our locally stranded individuals and returning overseas Filipinos with a breath of comfort amidst the stressful pandemic protocols. Moreover, the Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office is unwaveringly working with the CSWDO and the barangay local government units in the implementation of granular lockdowns and containment zones pursuant to our OCD guidelines. Treatment, the PPEs for medical workers, vitamins to boost immune system. In support of medical frontliners, the local government continues its provision of PPEs to health workers assigned in hospitals and treatment facilities. With 36 million worth of special risk allowance for the health workers, and the LGU provided 20% premium for job order employees, manifests the commitment of the local government unit with the national government through the Department of Health to support our COVID frontliners. Supplements to boost the immune system are also provided to our frontliners to increase protection against severe illness. The local government also coordinates with the agency partners to supplement the insufficient oxygen supply and the mechanized ventilators. While the One Hospital Command is being set up, reintegrate welfare goods and cash assistance provided as are part of our strategy. The assistance provided by the local government unit extends even after recovery from COVID-19. Survivors are given welfare goods and or cash assistance to help them get back on their feet. Mental health sessions are also given to restore our mental health balance and faith in the new normal. As far as our vaccination program in Zamboanga City, with over 401,694 individuals receiving at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccinations. Zamboanga City has been lauded by the Department of Health for its efficient administration with fewer than 1% wastage and consistently timely consumption of allocated doses. Magpabakuna tayo! In 2021 annual budget, the 200 million pesos has been allocated for the purchase of AstraZeneca vaccines to ensure an efficient supply for the people of Zamboanga. A few of our good practices in vaccine administration include the Libreng Sakay for senior citizens and PWDs, Island Vaccination Program, and the planned mobile vaccination drive. Of course, we thank our partners in the national government LTFRB, and LTO as well for the libreng sakay. We are eternally grateful to our porters for volunteering, offering their services as vaccination centers. SM Minpro, KCC Mall de Zamboanga, Western Mindanao State University, Ateneo de Zamboanga University, Universidad de Zamboanga Medical Center, Zamboanga Chongwa High School, Ciudad Medica Zamboanga, Zamboanga Peninsula Medical Center, Doctors Hospital, West Metro Medical Center, Brent Hospital and Colleges, Zamboanga City Medical Center, Camp Navarro General Hospital, as well as Zamboanga City Electric Cooperative. Recently, we have launched a VaxCert booth at SM Minpro to serve OFWs who are required a vaccination certificate in their destination countries. Other good practices are the administration's whole of a nation, whole of a city, and whole of a family approach on COVID-19. That does not end with the support of the health system. We have also been unwavering in assisting the local economy, especially the most affected sectors. Since last year, we have implemented the economic relief programs to affected sectors to adapt to the new normal. Number 1, the discount on real property tax. Number 2, the discount on business tax. Number 3, the condonation of rental fees. Number 4, Kadiwa on Wheels for agri-products. This has been a model for us to encourage our fisher folk, our sembradores farmers to be able to provide nutritious food from the bounty of the earth and sea to the homes so that we will be able to fight the pandemic by eating healthy and supporting the livelihoods of our people. We also had a subsidy program for power and water bills. Nagbigay po kami ng 500 pesos for our consumers for their electric and water bills. Number 6, e-learning hub for the Department of Education. These hubs provided for a television camera, printing for our capslet and modules so that every child will have at least their own module. Presently, we religiously host the daily huddle every single day to coordinate the everyday concerns on COVID-19. Guiding our policies are data analysis, surveys, and studies prepared by the City Health Office Surveillance Unit and the Research Evaluation and Statistics Division. Fighting the pandemic has been an immense and complex and totoong napakahirap na challenge, particularly for leaders and the mayor on the ground. We need to prioritize over multiple needs and demands for the services as we work toward the recovery and resilience with limited resources. Communication is also a challenge with the prevalence of fake news, COVID fatigue, and increasing distrust in government and government institutions. Maraming galit, maraming disinformed, at maraming anti-government. Kaya po, moving forward, it is clear that governance, recovery, resiliency are shared responsibility that is no longer the sole domain of government. If we want to win against the pandemic, every father, every mother, every responsible child should be able to contribute to the minimum health protocols. We need to build a data-driven culture to meet the needs of the city on human security, social welfare, and disaster prevention. We also need to empower and strengthen the local government units and increase our capacities to assess, to plan and mobilize resources in response to disasters and challenges. Alam niyo po, nahihirapan po kami kasi yung mga tao ayaw magpaswab. Takot silang magpaswab. And unfortunately, because of the refusal to swab, nagiging critical at sometimes it leads to death. Ano po kayang dapat natin gawin for our people to be able to allow themselves to be tested? Libre naman po ang swabbing. We need to help each other because this is one way that your good practice will be able to contribute to the saving of our lives of our people. Local government units must be ready to face and handle the emerging trends and issues brought about by the pandemic. Now, more than ever, we need to build and strengthen people's trust in government by being transparent and accountable. The work is not yet over. I have barely 8 months more to go and serve as mayor of Zamboanga City in a very crucial time, from the Zamboanga siege, the humanitarian crisis, to the global pandemic. But we take confidence in the fact that each day brings us lessons and opportunities to recalibrate our responses towards better governance and more resilient cities. Kapit tayo sa Panginoon. Before I end, I would like to honor and recognize my fellow local chief executives in the forefront of our COVID pandemic. For the past year and a half, we have been holding the ground in the frontliners to fight this pandemic. Muchísimas gracias at mabuhay po tayong lahat. In this pandemic, I have learned very important lessons. That the pandemic is indeed quite a challenge. But we have a loving and powerful God who will be able to beat and win over the pandemic. Kapit lang tayo sa Panginoon. May we have faith in God, in Nuestra Señora La Virgen del Pilar, our true Mother and Mayor, and let us hope in the new normal. And above all, let us love our family. Ito po si Beng Climaco na nagsasabi, I love God, I love Zamboanga City. Daghang salamat kaayo. Muchísimas gracias. Shukran. Y vaya con Dios a todos. Laban tayo kontra COVID. Kurada, comida, busca vida, y bakuna. May we have faith in God, hope in the new normal, and love of family to heal the sick and feed the hungry and provide the needed vaccines for our hope and our future. I'd like to end with Jeremiah 29:11. For I know my plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Kapit kamay tayo, laban at kapit sa Panginoon. Muchísimas gracias y vaya con Dios a todos.
Yan, thank you very much, Ma'am Beng, for taking the time to tape the presentation for the love of Zamboanga City and for the love of environmental planners and our partners in the city government and the wider region. We again express our thanks to all the local chief executives. This has not been an easy task to manage an unprecedented pandemic, and we understand the difficulties and the stress that they endure since last year. We also would like to express our thanks to our partners in the local government and those who are working to assist other victims of the pandemic who are really suffering during these difficult times. We, in celebration of the 32nd National Statistics Month, we appeal to our planners, especially the environmental planners present and barangay officials to push for the adoption and use of data and evidence in policy making and decision making. So with that, we would like to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to the first part of this session. Now, as indicated in our title, this is not solely on evidence-based pandemic response, but this is also relative to how our CSOs and the private sector can engage in the decision-making process of the government. As mentioned in the intention of this session, it's really to help the CSOs navigate the bureaucracy and to be able to be mainstreamed in the process, especially in the development process, as we are facing a global crisis. To assist us in this effort and to push for the agenda of people participation, the Department of Interior and local government has come up with a new measure, with a new system, with a new scheme that will allow the civil society organization and the private sector as a whole to be able to strengthen their position in decision making and be empowered in in putting their insights and their thoughts in drafting the blueprint and the development trajectory of our respective territories and areas of responsibility. So to be able to understand what this new scheme is about, we will present to you the proceedings of the provincial orientation of the CSO desk. This is a new scheme developed by the Department of Interior and Local Government. And then after the presentation of the proceedings, we will be entertained or we will answer the questions by our participants with the help of our representative from the Department of Interior and Local Government, Ma'am Teresita Catalbas, who is with us this afternoon. She is the LGO 5 of Zamboanga City PILG. So without much ado, we would like to um, request everyone to take the time and listen to the presentation.
So to start with, let's put ourselves in the presence of the Almighty God with a prayer to be followed by the singing of the Philippine national anthem through audio-visual presentation. Regional orientation, Sir Joachim. At this point, to officially acknowledge our participants na this morning. So at this point to present to us the Memorandum Circular number 2021-054, let me welcome Ms. Fabi L. Marquez, DMO3 of SLGP. Ma'am Fabi.
Good morning. My task is to present the Memorandum Circular 2021-054. So, mao ni siya ang amendment sa Memorandum Circular 2021-012 sa establishment of the CEPBS and pag-institutionalize sa People's Council sa tanang LGUs. So, mayong buntag sa tanan. So another work na po ni nato as naa sa DIL specifically focus sa ato ang mga civil society organization. So unsa maning MC 2021-054. So giingon diri, this policy was initially released last January as Memorandum Circular 2021-012. However, a lot of questions coming from the regional CSO focals and stakeholders. Balik sa una. Una pa. Oh, stakeholders. On how to implement the policy. In addition, there was also a provision that concerned civil society networks, the provision that required securing from the armed forces of the Philippines and Philippine National Police clearance prior to joining the People's Council. As they have pointed out, so nakita diha nga wala siya legal basis. There is no legal basis to require CSO to have a security clearance before participating sa local governance processes. So unsay mga basis diri? So naatay background, other policies issuance sa CSO desk. Gingon diri, the department has already issued several policies that provide opportunities to engage the program of the government. So we have one, Memorandum Circular 2018-89. So diri gi-prescribe ang general guidelines for the CSO nga mahimo siyang co-implement sa mga program, projects, activities sa department. Next is katong Memorandum Circular 2019-72, which prescribe the general guidelines for the accreditation of CSO to the local special bodies. This will be amended, so nana po siya i-amend when the LSBs reconstitute next year, especially nanatay election sa 2022 after sa local and national election. And then last year, we have also encouraged CSO to engage the COVID-19 response activity of the government through the issuance of Memorandum Circular 2020-135. Unsa man ang iyang purpose? So ang purpose of the policy is to further engage. So i-engage ang mga CSO by enjoining the local government to have a CSO desk who will handle CSO-related concerns. In the past, CSO found it difficult. So naglisod jud ang CSO to lobby to engage with the local government since wala makahibalo ang mga CSO kung asa sila moadto kinsa ang contact persons sa office nga ilang ma-forward ang ilang concerns. So nag-hope sila nga having a focal person for the CSO sa LGUs, the concern can be addressed properly in a timely manner. So this policy also aims to expand the participation of CSO sa local governance by institutionalizing the People's Council. So some LGUs such as naana diri mga example nga naka-establish na Naga City and Dumaguete City already have existing People's Council CSOs in this area. So makaingon sila nga having the People's Council truly change the governance process in the area. They have more confidence to articulate their needs, lobby for policy, so policy makaparticipate in the decision making sa local governance. So naay mga legal basis niini. Unsa man ang mga legal basis? So gi-emphasize sa atong 1987 constitutions recognize the importance of CSO in promoting the welfare of the nation. It's also protect their independence and autonomy to pursue their collective interests. So, gi-emphasize sa ato ang Constitution, 1987 Constitution. Ang CSO should be able to participate sa tanang level of decision-making of the government. Klaro diha katong from planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. The state should facilitate the establishment of mechanism that would ensure, so dapat i-ensure yun ang participation sa mga CSOs. So unsa iyang mga legal basis niini? So tanaw na to, tumbalikan ang Local Government Code of 1991. Nag-ingon diha. All promotes the importance of civil society in local governance. It also allows the LGU through the local chief executive sa atong mayor to provide necessary assistance to the CSO for the project implementation and their jurisdiction. So ano na ito mga experience, ang partner na to, especially sa third-party monitoring is the civil society organization. These are the only legal basis for now, ang MC 2021-054. If we notice, ang law are general. So, ang MCQ, general kaay sa nga tanan. Wala siya, it does not specifically mention, wala niya gi-mention ang CSO, desk, or People's Council. Going back to the purpose of this policy, nag-ingon dito, it says that ang LGU are enjoined to establish the CSO desk and institutionalize the People's Council. So kung nag-ask og mga comments and recommendations sa mga stakeholders, sa ato ang mga focal persons, mo ni ilang giingon, we should use the word mandate. So nagsuggest sila nga ang gamiton is mandate. We need to use a stronger word to the LGU will be compelled to comply. However, without an organic law, kung agitay organic law, that mandates the establishment of the CSO desk and People's Council, we can only enjoin, we cannot mandate the local government. So, hangyo ra kita ni, i-enjoin lang ginato. So, naigipasa nga sa last January, House Bill 7950, seeking to institutionalize the People's Council. So, nana siya karon sa third reading. However, ang bill until now still pending sa Senate. So, kaniunta nga maka-bill, mo siya makadugang more stronger, makaingon ta nga mapas ni into a law. But for now, we can only enjoin the LGU, we cannot mandate them. So, saan pag-establish sa CSO kanang giingon CSO desk? So, natay general guidelines on how to establish the CSO desk. Sa tanang province, cities, municipalities are encouraged to create their respective CSO desk. So, unsa man ang mga functions sa CSO desk? Mao ni ahang functions. CSO desk officer will be in charge sa documenting and addressing CSO-related concerns. He or she shall forward, receive inquiries or complaints to the concerned offices and try to resolve the issues that may arise. So, ang function sa ato ang CSO desk is very crucial. Next, the CSO desk will be responsible. So, responsible sa atong CSO desk officer for the accreditation of CSO under Memorandum Circular 2019-72. So kani, dako-dako nga trabaho kay next year,
Boy, papel ug
when the
ballpen ba?
NSBs are reconstituted, the CSO desk will be handle all activities related to the People's Council o encourage siya ang mag-encourage sa CS2 to participate in decision making in all levels sa government. So, ang CSO desk officer, the CSO desk officer is designated. So, giklaro diha, designated by the local chief executive. So, designated siya sa atuang mayor through an executive order to ensure that the CSO desk officer can coordinate and relate to the concern of civil society. It is highly recommended. So, iklaro dito, klaro diri nga, it is highly recommended that the CSO desk officer gikan siya sa rank of CSOs. Na-job order ba ka siya or nagtrabaho sa munisipyo, basta as long as na member siya sa Osaka institution or Osaka organization sa CSO. Women ba kaha or birth any organization basta member siya. So in order to uphold the independence of CSO and to avoid nepotism, the CSO desk officer should not be related sa appointing authority. So, dili siya related sa appointing authority. So anita sa roles and responsibilities sa CSO desk officer. Kiingon dire, the CSO desk officer will be responsible for facilitating the formation of the CSO council. So mao ni ang trabaho sa atuang CSO desk officer. Kadto mo coordinate siya mag-facilitate sa sa formation sa People's Council in coordination with the DILG and the Sanggunian. So siya usab will be the one to ensure that the CSO are able to participate sa local government through constant coordination of the activities. So ang CSO usab ug ang Sanggunian in line with the Magna Carta of Women of 2009. Ang CSO desk officer ihag yung i-ensure nga ang women are able to participate in decision making through at least 40% representation in the various local government council. Sa committee man kaha and other special bodies. The CSO desk officer will also be the one siya to mag-maintain sa mga database sa CSO and to submit monitoring forms. So natin mga monitoring forms, Form 1, 2A, 2B, Annex B, C, and D. So mao ni ang CSO desk officer. To ensure the CSO desk officer will be able to fulfill. So kinahanglan makuan gyud niya, ma-exercise ang iyahang trabaho, iyang role. So ang kami sa SLGP mo provide og orientation and capacity development sa atong mga CSO desk officer throughout Region 9. So mo proceed ta sa let us now go to the general guidelines on establishing the CSO desk. Sa tanang provinces, cities, municipalities are encouraged to create their respective CSO desk. So, unsaan pag-create nato sa People's Council? With the creation of the council sa city municipality, dire all cities, sa tanang city municipalities are encouraged to create and institutionalize a People's Council. Again, we can only encourage or enjoin them to create the council. We cannot mandate. Hindi na mandate ang LGU because we don't have organic law for now. The People's Council covers a wide scope of CSOs as they are composed of CSO representatives from accredited, registered, and recognized. Sa mga previous discussion, daghan ang nag-mention nga ang ilang CSO nga na-accredited, na-registered is very minimal. Gamay rin daw kayo. Nagay nag-mention nga 5 ra ka CSO. But giingon diri nga pwede siya recognize sa CSO. So tanaw na to sa unsa nga mga CSO nga pwede siya ma-include sa People's Council. So mao ni ang mga kung mingon tag accredited CSOs, accredited unsa ni mga CSO? CSO that are represented in the local special bodies. So familiar kita ng mga local special bodies. And have undergone accreditation by the LGU in line with the Memorandum Circular 2019-72. So unsa man ning registered, have obtained registration from any of the 4 government entities that registered CSO. One is the Securities and Exchange Commission na adiri ang ato ang mga foundations, development NGOs, people's organization, and other civic group. So sa ato mga cooperatives na po diha ang CDA. While sa labor unions and workers association naa siya sa DOLE. And then sa homeowners association under siya sa HLURB. So anhin na ta sa kato mga recognized nga mga people's organization. Nakamit siya sa minimum requirements for membership. So nasa yung mga members. naa sa structures, naa siya mga officers, naapod siya giingon nga leader, and they can participate sa local special bodies. However, they are not registered, especially naa sila mga requirements nga dili nila masubmit. But na-recognize sila sa local government units ug maka-appeal siya diha sa organization sa People's Council. So the CSO must obtain a certificate of authorization. So naagi siya certificate of authorization from the LGU. So di na ta magproblema ani kay ang certificate of authorization na napod siya mga template. Now, how can the CSO obtain a certificate of authorization? So unsaon ka nga ato mga CSO nasa certificate of authorization from the LGU. So kani, number one, the sanggunian. So ang sanggunian will issue a notice of call for the creation of the People's Council. So in line with the full disclosure policy, so kinahanglan siya nga ang notice shall be posted sa at least tulo ka conspicuous places in the locality. If the LGU naa siya website or social media nga page, pwede siya dito po niya i-post ang panawagan call for unsa man pag-appeal diha sa People's Council. Number two, all accredited. So butang diri tanang accredited, registered and recognized CSO shall be given ample time to submit the requirements. So these are the requirements. So ang requirements una is Annex A. So kinahanglan na Annex A mao ni ang People's Council membership form. So pila-apan ni sa organization. Na mo ni ang yang requirements. One, People's Council membership form Annex A. So magsulat paghihapon na paghihapon letter of intent to be included as member of the People's Council. Number three, kani proof of another evidence existence sa operation, haman yang operation sa city, municipality, where nag-apply siya as part sa People's Council. At least, ang gingon diri at least 1 year prior to sa PITSA sa iyang application. Naa ang iyang organization. Proof of activities held in the pursuit of development objectives or organizational activities conducted. So number 5, program of activities. So plan niya for the last year. Before siya nag-apply as a member sa People's Council. Number 6, mao ni ang copy sa iyang Constitution and Bylaws or Article of Incorporations. List of officers and members of good standing and their respective addresses. Financial statement and declaration of assets and liabilities. For example, ang ato mga People's Council, wala siya financial statement because ang financial statement niagi ni siya auditor. So kinahanglan nimo ipa-audit. Pero sa People's Organization, pwede ra nga financial report. So, signed by the treasurer, the president, or board. And then certificate of registration na siya accredited, recognized, mao ni ang number 9. So sa creation, manhita sa creation na ta. All application will be received by the CSO desk officer. So tanang application nga mahimo siyang member sa People's Council, dapat ang mudawat na is the CSO desk officer. He or she will be evaluate niya ang application based on the following criteria. So naa siya yung mga following criteria. So the following criteria, 1, organization, purposes, and objective which include community organization and development. So institutions building, local enterprise development, so katong livelihood development, capacity building, and similar development objectives and considerations. So community-based and sectoral based nga organization with project development and implementation sa ilahang track record sa barangay, city, municipality for at least 1 year. So kinahanglan siya nga adunay evidence by the preparation of annual reports. So, and conduct of annual meeting duly certified by the Board of Secretary of the organization. By the way, ang annual report, so pwede na siya tanawon dito sa Constitution and Bylaws. Na siya yung form dito. Next, ang creation of the People's Council. The CSO desk officer will then prepare the list of qualified CSOs. So siya to mag-prepare kinsa niya mga qualified CSOs and those that have submitted a complete requirements and met the criteria shall be given a certificate of authorization. The Sanggunian will be then facilitate the formation of the People's Council. In order to formally create the council, ang sanggunian would have so ang sanggunian maay mo convene with the representation of the qualified CSO. Here the CSO may present their service they may offer to the LGU. So ang mga CSO mo offer na siya kung siyang service ma-offer nga to sa LGU, especially in the implementation of its activities. They may also negotiate with the sanggunian to the rights and privileges that they will have. So it is also important na they talk about form of assistance they may need to fulfill their role. So na negotiation between LGUs and the CSOs. This is a crucial activity as the LGU is not always receptive to the CSO. Hence, it is important that the MLGOO will be able to attend and facilitate together with the CSO desk officer to ensure that the CSO will be heard. So, mapamina gyud ang mga CSO. Once the People's Council has been organized, they shall be file a petition for recognition to the Sanggunian. The Sanggunian will be issue the certificate of recognition and pass a resolution that states the rights and privileges of the council. So, anhin na ta sa People's Council. So, to uphold the independence of civil society, so ang People's Council shall have the autonomy to determine their internal structure. So, sila to mag-determine sa ilang internal structure. They will also come up with their own house rules, policies, including the rules on the frequency of meeting nila. The members of the council should also select their representatives to the various local government boards, committees, council, and task forces. So, composition. In selecting the representative, please take note that the CSO representation shall not be exceed 25% of the local membership, except for the Local Development Council. Sa the Local Government Code, nagmandis at least 25% CSO representations. So, giemphasize po sa MC nga the council should also ensure the representation of women through at least 40% membership in line with the Magna Carta of Women of 2009. So, unsa may roles and responsibilities sa People's Council? So, one, the People's Council sa syudad, city, and municipality shall ensure that the CSO are able to participate in local governance processes, such as, itong i-mention ako, planning, budgeting, policy making, and in the implementation of the local government projects. Depending on the rights and privileges granted to the People's Council through the Sangguniang Resolution, ang People's Council may also propose legislation o gi-encourage siya nga makabutar diha sa committee level. In all activities of the council, it is important that they remain independent. So pabilin sila nga independence as a members of civil society. The members of the People's Council should ensure that each member organization, so ang ilang members organization do not use the council for the partisan political activities or religious purposes. So lastly, the People's Council sa city and municipalities will be the one to elect their nominees. So balik ko na ako, ang city and municipalities will be the one to elect their nominees to the provincial People's Council. So all provinces are encouraged to form a People's Council which shall be recognized by the Sangguniang Panlalawigan through resolution. Given this, the province-wide CSO that do not identify with the city or municipality will not be able to join the Provincial People's Council. Only the CSO nga kadtong naay recommendation sa municipal level nga siya ang gi-identify nga mahimong mo represent ngadto sa provincial level. So as mentioned earlier, it is important nga ang People's Council independent good siya. So ang roles and responsibilities sa local government units. For the CSO desk officer, they should allocate funding and other necessary materials for the operation of the desk. So mani yung usa nga ang LGU mag-allocate siya funding for the necessary materials for the operation of the CSO desk. For the People's Council, the Sanggunian at minimum should pass a resolution establishing a system of partnership with the CSO. It is highly encouraged that they pass an ordinance on the People's Council as well, since they may allocate resources and funding to support the council. By the way, we have also a template on saon paghimo o pag-create sa ordinance, natay ordinance for the People's Council. We have available template. So, mo ni ang roles sa nanatay LGU and then sa DILG. So sa DILG offices, coordinate with the CSO desk officer on the activities of the CSO and attend og meeting if possible. So provide technical assistance and other capacity development activities in the creation of CSO desk and People's Council. So ensure that the People's Council pabilin siya nga non-partisan. And then monitoring the activities of the council and submit reports to the DLGS. Let us now go to the reporting mechanism for the policy. Let's start with the form that shall be submitted by the CSO desk officer. One, morning Annex B. After activity report, so morning ang himuon sa ato ang submit sa atong CSO desk officer. Sa LGU, region, so morning ang line of activity o format sa iyang i-submit. So next is the Annex C and D. On the time submission, unless there are any changes, kung may mga changes in the membership of the council. Information in the People's Council membership form. So mao ni siya ang summary of membership in the People's Council. We have also available form ani template. Tanang form katong sa executive order designated sa ato ang CSODS officer, we have available. People's Council, tanang mga documents nga need para sa pag-submit, we have available. And then summary of membership sa Provincial People's Council. Mao ni ang template. Next, we will proceed to the summary of People's Council per local government units. So, ang DILG, ang regional office, siya ang mag-consolidate sa provincial submission and submit from the highly urbanized cities and ICC through Google Link. So, mo ni ang Google Link na to, diri available ang tanang monitoring forms. Kato akong gi-mention, one is the executive order, ordinances, mga forms na adri sa Google Drive. So, pwede ninyo na siya i-copy para makita ang tanang forms. So, thank you and good morning.
Okay, thank
Okay. So thank you very much to the Department of Interior and Local Government for the orientation on the civil society organization desk. So as mentioned by DILG, no, this is mechanism is enabled by an executive issuance by DILG. The law that would institutionalize the CSO desk is still pending at the Senate. So once this will be passed, this will become part of the bureaucracy of all local government units. We encourage our friends joining us this afternoon from barangay local government units to please try to encourage your respective community associations to be mainstream in your respective decision-making processes and to be feel welcomed then kasi we always receive complaints or remarks that our barangay local government units are not really appreciative of the efforts or attempts by civil society organizations to engage in the barangay undertakings or barangay activities. The City Government of Zamboanga has already complied with the requirement for an executive order. We provided executive order creating the CSO desk to the ILG sometime in September. I think it was in September. Email po kami. So the creation of a CSO desk in Zamboanga City was made possible by Executive Order number BC 668-2021, signed by the local chief executive Maria Isabel Climaco on the 16th of July 2021. So the executive order is compliant with the memorandum circular on the creation of CSO desk. There is a main CSO desk officer, which is myself. I'm the CSO desk officer for City of Zamboanga. And there's also an alternate CSO desk officer in the name of Engineer Lane Benito. We are also complied with the requirement for CSO desk officers to be not related to the local chief executive by consanguinity. And myself, I'm a member of PIEP, so I'm compliant with the requirement that the CSO desk officer must be a member of an NGO or CSO. The executive order of the mayor includes the functions and the responsibilities of the CSO desk office and CSO desk officer. And the local finance committee is also enjoined to provide assistance by way of provision of equipment and supplies to assist in the activities of the CSO desk office. By the way, prior to the establishment of the CSO desk office or unit, the City Planning and Development Office has been providing assistance to our CSOs. Actually, we've been, other than the trainings sessions that we sponsor for our CSOs, we also provide secretariat and administrative support. I think some of our friends from CSOs are here that can attest to that. We have been helping them in drafting letters and resolutions. We've been instrumental in in as much as their efforts to engage with the government, we also help them in preparation of s- um, uh, project proposals, etc. So, like for example, just yesterday, Ma'am Lourdes Mangawang, the CSO member of the local finance committee, seek the assistance of the planning office in the preparation of a complaint letter that was addressed to the mayor regarding the illegal occupation of informal settlers into the Santa Cruz Cemetery. So we assisted them by helping them draft the letter in the manner that they want to express the concern to the mayor. So we reached the point of open forum. If we have questions and concerns, um, the City Planning and Development Coordinator, Engineer Sikat, is here to answer. And of course, on the part of DILG, we have Ma'am Teresita Catalbas, who will respond to your queries regarding the establishment of a CSO desk office. We will begin by acknowledging Sir Teddy Cahill of the Vista Lende. Sir Teddy, you may have the floor. Sir Ted.
Good afternoon.
Hi, sir. Buenas tardes.
Yeah, buenas tardes. Would would just like would we would just like to ask if you being the CSO desk officer designated,
Yes, sir.
would there have been a conference or a meeting that you have initiated for the purpose that would lead to the formation of People's Council?
This is the first step, sir. This is one of the efforts towards that.
Okay.
That's why
Yeah.
we called for
Thank you
this
so
session.
much
This is
because
forum for that.
maybe Sir Jess, if you could have a separate conference pertaining to the proposed formation of the People's Council so that other civil society organizations existing in our city could also give their share and some inputs. Like in the case of persons with disabilities, for which I am representing, we do have several organizations, and these organizations are divided according to different types of disabilities. Those on wheelchair, those deaf people, those blind people are organized among themselves. So these are things that I would want to raise in the meeting that you will be convening later on. And another one also suggests, if you may allow, on the presentation earlier about the research, I was just curious about the research, the input gathered from the Christian and Muslim respondents. There were actually no um, data that reflects that as to why a lot of Muslim people have some hesitations on about the vaccines as compared to Christians. There would have been some sort of another question, a follow-up question in that research that talks about maybe the reason why few Muslims don't want to submit themselves for vaccination is maybe the halal certification of the vaccine. That could be one reason. It could have been included in the questions of that research so that we could extract informations or reason as to why they have that lesser number as compared to Christians. Esa lang din yung pregunta.
Thank you, Sir Teddy. On your first concern, yes, yes, but we will take note of that. Actually, we invited initially in this session, we invited only those that are within that are accredited. Actually,
Accredited, yeah, accredited by
Dr.
Sangguniang.
Grace was invited. Unfortunately, she extended her regrets. She cannot attend us today, but yun po, we will have a special session purely on people's on people's council. And then on your second question, the methodology of the survey does not allow yet to give us an insight on why, on the why question, but we can make an inference based on the correlation of the responses on the income level, and perhaps you can also make speculation that the reason that you mentioned. That's one speculation. I mean, that might be one of the reasons. Another reason is the cultural and the traditional aspect of it. Kasi pero yung mga kapatid po nating nasa faith, they are more religious than the Christian, what do you call it? The Christian faith. Mas tied sila sa mga cultural beliefs nila. I think that's also one of the factors. And another thing is, although there is that survey indicated that there is a difference, hindi po ganun laki. Like, it's not very compelling. There is a difference, pero slight lang. Hindi siya ganun katarang, parang when you say massive talagang ayaw talaga. Hindi. Parang lang. May konting ano lang, difference, but it's not that big that really merits us to infer that it's really diverging views. Yun po, Sir Ted. Okay na po, Sir Ted. Thank you po for asking. Do we have other questions from other members? Thank you po, Sir Teddy. We will let you know po if we have scheduled or arranged the special session for our civil society organizations. Do we have any more concerns from our participants? Again, we really encourage our barangay and our neighboring local government units to support the effort on institutionalizing the CSO desk office or the mechanism for the CSO desk. This is really one of the agenda or effort or strategy of this administration to push for the people participation mainstreaming, especially amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. The inputs from the CSOs, because they are on the ground, is really valuable. Any more questions? Wala na po. Going once, going twice. Okay po. So since there are no more questions, I'd like to invite again our City Planning and Development Coordinator and also the President of PIEP to give us a final message. Sir Joe. Sir Joe. Sir Jojo. Is our chapter president still around? Okay, may I request our secretariat to help us with the photo operations. We are requesting everyone to please turn on your respective cameras for the photo documentation. Again, we thank everyone for joining us this afternoon and sharing your valuable time to learn about how the government is looking at evidence and data in its policy making decisions, and as well as how the CSOs can be part of the process. Thank you, everyone. Please turn on your videos. Jay, please take the Jay, photos. Requesting everyone to please turn on your videos. Thank you, Ma'am Tess Catalbas, for being with us today. Okay. Requesting members, please turn on your respective cameras for the photo operation and photo documentation.
For the first panel, smile. Wait lang. Screen. Wait lang.
Jay, okay ata, Jay?
May panay pa, Jess. Second panel. Janet, first panel. Wait, Jess.
Okay, so again, we thank everyone for joining us. We will see you again in the next session of the community engagement program for basic sectors. Good afternoon and buenas tardes, everyone. Thank you for joining.